A pipsqueak is defined in the Oxford Dictionary as a person considered to be insignificant, especially because they are small or young. I wanted to take this and apply it to Pokemon because, as somebody who's new to Pokemon challenges, I never play with these little guys. These little pipsqueaks in this game did not deserve to be called that. So that's what created the Pipsqueak playthrough. In order to do any of these challenges, you need to define what Pokemon you can and can't catch. This is like a Nuzlocke or anything like that. So for us, our definition of a Pipsqueak implied that we could only catch Pokemon that were 1 foot tall or smaller. Of course, there are some other rules, like a Nuzlocke, where you have one of each Pokemon, you have permaboxing fainted Mons, and no healing items in battle. But the main rule, and the one that would make this the most challenging, is that we were not going to allow Dynamaxing. Pokemon Shield is almost entirely Dynamax reliant, and not doing this would make this game that much harder. Almost every gym leader has a Dynamax Pokemon, and the fact that we were going to be unable to do that at all during this challenge made us a little worried, and you know you're going to have to sacrifice some Pokemon, but we'll see how this goes. So without further ado, here is the Pokemon Shield Pipsqueak playthrough. Pokemon Shield starts off like any other game, at home, playing the Switch with your mom, and your sleeping Munchlax in the corner. Not long after you start the game, it's time to get your starter from Leon. And for us, this is kind of a challenge because in this game, all 3 starters are actually Pipsqueaks. Each one is 1 foot tall, and you can pick any of them for this challenge. After looking at the available Pokemon for this, I decided to go with Scorbunny, mainly because there's a lot of water types and a lot of grass and bug and fairy type Pokemon that you can get that are 1 foot tall or smaller. Scorbunny is one of only 2 Pokemon that are fire type that fit the Pipsqueak category that we've defined. So with that, we decided to add Scorbunny to our team, and we've added our first team member, named him Runt, and our journey can begin. After a quick fist bump from our boy and a quick tutorial session with Leon, we can go to Route 1 to catch 3 of the first members of our team. First member of this team, Squovit, whatever it's called. We catch Squovit, add it to the Pokedex where you can see that it is a 1 foot tall, 5.5 pound demon, and then we name him Weenie and move on to the next Pokemon. The next Pokemon is Rookidee, the tiny bird Pokemon. Even the Pokedex knows these guys are small. He's 8 inches tall, 4 pounds, and we name him Squirt before catching the next Pokemon, Caterpie. Caterpie gets added to the team as a 1 foot tall little bug, and we name him Wee Man, and the journey continues to Route 2. On Route 2, we find 2 very important Pokemon for this run. Crumb the Choodle with Strong Jaw, who's really OP early on, and then we get Peanut the Yamper, who's just a nice little addition. Shout out my brother's dog, and all dogs in general. With our full team of 6, we're able to send Runt out against Hopsgrookie and take the first battle against him without any issues, and then we can continue on to the wild area, where most of our Pokemon will be encountered eventually, but for now, we're only going to get a couple additional team members. That's right, at the end of day 1, we had added 7 total team members, which included Pip the Pidove and Pebble the Dwebble, who would end up becoming a crucial member of this team going forward. Day 2 of this playthrough started off with us going to Motostoke and getting our jersey for all of these gym challenges, which ended up being kind of a cool celebration, and this is where I want to talk about Pokemon Shield being actually a pretty cool game, but one that gets a lot of hate for what I think is not very valid. The first thing is, the problem that this game has is that there's no rare candies, there's nothing you can code into this one to make it so that streaming this is any easier. You can't really ROM hack this game yet because it's a Switch game, so players don't play this game as much or as frequently as other games, and so they don't have as fond of memories for that. I think aesthetically, everybody in my stream, and me including that, really appreciated the look of this game and how this game feels when you play it, versus, you look at a Pokemon Scarlet or Violet or recent games like Legends Arceus, and the games discount Arceus. Arceus is a great game, but Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, those games visually, they glitch so much, the structure of the game looks so weird sometimes, but this game looks really clean, and I think the COVID bubble really shaped our perspective of this game in a negative way. This game looks really good. If you go back and replay this one, yeah, it can be easy sometimes, but also Pokemon games are all easy. Until you settle your own difficulty, you figure out how to make these games hard for yourself, all Pokemon games are easy. I don't want to hear it. Alright, with that little rant out of the way, let's move forward a little bit. I think this cutscene was really cool, but we can bounce into where we can find our next Pokemon on the route to the west of Motostoke City in Route 3. This is it! Because I rock, just like this rock right here. Look at that, my 1 foot tall, 26 pound little dude. We named our little dude Nugget and went onward into Galar Mine number 1. And it's really quick here that I want to talk about something that maybe you've picked up, maybe you haven't. But in this playthrough, anybody that evolves into a Pokemon that is taller than 1 foot, that evolution is not allowed. So, for example, if our boy Runt our little score bunny, evolved into a Raboot at any point during this game, we would not be allowed to keep him on our team. So I have to be vigilant. Basically every single battle after these Pokemon can evolve, pressing B, preventing all of that stuff. So it was something that we really ran into a problem with, and we'll get to it later. As we traversed through Galar Mine number 1, we were able to add Shorty the Diglett and Frodo the Drillbur to our team. At the end of Galar Mine number 1, you run into Bede, who is a Psychic-type trainer that eventually becomes a Fairy-type gym leader later in the game, but early on, this guy is super easy to take down with our Bug-type Pokemon, especially Pebble. So after defeating Bede, we head out to Route 4, where we can find Wee Lad the Pumpkaboo, Teeny the Milcery, and Leedle the Eevee before the newest and most important addition to the team so far. Yes! Yes, one of the smallest dudes, one of the littlest guys. Let's go. That's right, another Gen 5 Bug-type Pokemon having a major impact on our team. These Gen 5 Bugs are strong. Joltik, the 4-inch tall, cutest little spider you've ever seen in your life. We named him Princess and got attached immediately. Then, a couple encounters later, we added one of the best and most important encounters for this entire playthrough, Cutiefly. Not only is Cutiefly another 4-inch demon that really puts the work in on these psychic types, but Cutiefly is also evolved into Ribombee. The same rules that I was talking about evolution apply here, where if it evolves into something that's bigger than 1 foot tall, it's not allowed to evolve, but Ribombees are 8-inch tall tiny little bugs that have a lot of power. Before finishing up on Route 4, we were looking for Badoos and battling all the trainers to get some experience before the gym, and I made another pretty fatal mistake, which was letting my Rookity evolve into a Corvisquire. Earlier this year that I went to. That was fun. That was like a fun time. You're telling me it evolved? I literally was hitting B that entire time. Alright, Corvisquire, you're getting knocked off the team. Yeah, so I don't really know what happened there. I was pressing B that entire time, and for whatever reason, my Switch was not registering the B, and so the evolution went through, and we were kind of stuck having to put our little Squirt into the too big box. The rest of Route 4 consisted of me looking for a Badoo, but being unable to find it, even though I think it's a 5% encounter rate, so we were able to move on to gym number 1. So after herding a bunch of Wooloo and moving towards Gym Leader Milo, who uses Grass-type Pokemon, if you couldn't already tell, we run into this trainer, and we make our first big mistake. Not in her ambiance anymore. What the heck? Pip's gone. I didn't even see Pip's gone. We were paying a little too much attention to chat, and Pip goes down to what is a growth-boosted acid from this Oddish, a little underleveled and a little underprepared, and this can happen. So after clearing the rest of the trainers and getting through the trial, it's time to take on Milo and the Grass-type Gym Leader. Milo's team is pretty subpar, and he leads with a fairly weak Gossifleur that we could take out with one super effective Bug Bite from Princess, before he brings in his ace, a Dynamaxed Eldegoss with both Grass and Normal-type Dynamax moves. Due to the poison from the last battle, we have to swap off of Princess, and it's here that I want to talk about the strategy of this playthrough. Because we are unable to Dynamax our Pokemon, it is likely that, unless we have a very, very strong resistance, at least one of our team members will go down during each Dynamax encounter. Luckily, with the limits that we have imposed on ourselves, we should have just enough cannon fodder to make it through a majority of these tough battles until we have a real solution to these giant specimens. To deal with this Eldegoss in a safe way, we decided best to sacrifice Leedle. So, after 2 Dynamax-empowered moves and a Baby Doll Eyes onto the Eldegoss, Leedle goes down and we should be able to safely bring in Pebble to handle one Dynamax move and then get the clean KO with a few Bug Bites through a few grassy terrain heals. With that, we're now officially 1/8 of the way through the Galar region. Don't worry, I know it's been almost 10 minutes and we've only taken out the first gym, but things are only going to get hotter from here. Let's go! Let's go, Pebble! Pebble's doing his thing! Pebble's doing her thing! Nice job. Team full of ladies, too. Team full of ladies. From here, we can backtrack a bit to Route 3 to get Nut the Clink, who can learn Charge Beam, which will be very useful for the second gym. Then on Route 5, we catch a Spritzy, which we appropriately named Tweety, and Peewee the Applin, whose only moves are Astonish and Withdraw. But don't worry, we'll find some use for this Fuji-loving worm thing at some point. After Princess, our tiny spider champion takes down Hop's team of a sheep, a bird, and a monkey, all of which you would think would have an easy time with a 4-inch tall spider. It's time to head to Holbury City and the second gym leader, Nessa. In Holbury City, there isn't much to do besides take on Nessa, everyone's favorite water-type gym leader, for some reason. Our team is fairly well constructed to take on a water-type gym, with Princess taking on most of the offensive work. We breezed through Nessa's first 2 Pokemon after a very helpful critical hit Electro Ball on Goldeen and a paralysis-boosted Electro Ball against Arrokuda, only to come up against what is basically an empowered lion turtle from Avatar: The Last Airbender. I mean, seriously, this thing is terrifying. For us, we have what we think is a decent stalling tactic with our built-in sacrificial nut, but this Dreadnought is a beast. After tanking 2 hits from Dreadnought, we make a heinous mistake. Thinking that Dreadnought's attack stat isn't high enough to do too much damage, we swap into Tweety, who Dreadnought annihilates with its final Dynamax move, and after this we swap into Yamper, who lives on 1 HP and is able to get a paralysis onto the Dreadnought with Nuzzle, before going down after being slower than a paralyzed turtle to a Razor Shell. In full steer mode now, we send in Teeny, who is also slower than a paralyzed turtle, and who misses the Sweet Kiss Confusion. Without another viable Pokemon to cleanly swap into, we decide that this puddle of milk has seen its last days, and sacrifice Teeny to safely bring in Nut. Nut lands their own powerful discharge to do about a third of Dreadnought's remaining health, before going down to another Razor Shell, and our team is in absolute shambles. We bring in Princess, who is able to land the final blow on a paralysis-boosted Electro Ball, but only after we have suffered huge losses for our current roster of Pokemon and for our imagined future final team. There we go. There we go. We cleared gym number 2. Teeny was going to evolve into Alcremie sometime during this playthrough, but because Alcremie is only available through evolution, we've officially lost one of the strongest Pokemon we could have used during this entire playthrough. After this gym battle, I really had to reassess how actually difficult this challenge would be if I did not plan everything more meticulously than I had been doing. Stuck using a majority of first stage Pokemon for the first half of the game meant that, by pure base stat total, we would be outgunned and outmatched until much later in the playthrough. It was time to get serious. Of course, after the battle with Nessa, we had to have a nice steak dinner with Chairman Rose, who definitely didn't look like an evil supervillain hiding his villainous intentions. Then added a few new team members to our freshly depleted roster. First up was Squeeps the Shellos, who we were able to add before a quick stomp of bead with, you guessed it, Princess. His electric bug typing is actually so good for most of this playthrough, and really gave me a newfound appreciation for the little guy. Along the way through the mine, we run into a double battle against Team Yell with Hop as our ally. If you've played Gen 8, you know how incompetent of a battler Hop is, and so during this battle, we do lose Shorty the Diglett, but then we take a calculated risk. I know that Nugget's gonna evolve. Don't hit him. Don't hit him. Princess, no! Oh my god, it's crit. Luckily, we were able to make it out of the battle unscathed after that. In the next battle in the mine, our time with Squeeps is ended due to a digging drillbur that we are just unable to hit or swap into due to its speed. So in an attempt to recover, Squeeps goes down. After this, it's time to reset the team, and so we spend some time acquiring new faces, including Elf the Esper, Dewey the Dewpider, and Limpet the Shelder. It's at this point that we have decided that we are done battling trainers unless it's absolutely necessary because of the sheer danger that it possesses. With that decision, let's review some notes about Pokemon Shield. As I mentioned before, there's no way to hack rare candies into this game or cap the levels that I'm aware of at the time of making this video. This makes it very hard to level up your team safely if you have some setbacks or unexpected losses, unlike in the older generations where streamers have used action replays or codes to easily be able to level up Pokemon. Don't get me wrong, it's a valid strategy that I've definitely used before, and it helps a ton with both making content and less time-consuming gameplay, so I'm all for it, but we don't have the luxury of that in this playthrough. After a few trial runs of leveling up Pokemon through normal encounters, camping, and raid battles, we settle on raid battles being the most efficient use of time, and additionally something that I can grind more easily while not streaming and not showing you guys the boring aspects of this game. With the experience candies, we can level up the necessary team members and try to set the level cap accordingly, but you might see some Pokemon a level or two above the cap. All of this is to say that I didn't take the time to calculate how many levels each Pokemon would get from candies, so some of the team is a little over-leveled during various parts of this playthrough. But it's fine, guys. Overall, I think I did a pretty good job with this, so don't hound me in the comments. With that, it's time for a quick and harmless sweep of Marnie's Dark-type Pokemon with our little guys, and then we're off to the Motostoke Gym to take on Kabu. Within Motostoke Gym, as unlikely as it was, we found some reprieve from the craziness of the last two gyms. The first thing that happened was that we found a new and very important team member, Smurf, the Litwick, who helped us complete the gym challenge, and then it's time to take on the gym leader, Kabu. Kabu's main threat during this battle is the presence of Will-O-Wisps on his Arcanine and Ninetales, so our Rost Berries along with our Water-type additions to the team and Frodo's Sandstorm and Rock Slide combo allow us to take out Kabu's lead Ninetales, and then Nugget and Princess combine for the relatively easy takedown of his Arcanine through a couple of burns. With only a Gigantamax Centiskorch left, we stalled for a couple of turns, sacrificing Frodo to the 700-foot Centipede God. We stalled with Limpet, whose Protect doesn't fully mitigate the damage from the Dynamaxed moves, but does enough to keep him around long enough to stall out the remainder of his Gigantamaxed turns. Finally, it was time to bring in Pebble for the clean Rock Slide KO.
There it is. There it is. Let's go. One loss. That's okay.
This ended up being a relatively easy battle, and this team of backpack portable Pokemon has given me some new hope after an awful start to this attempt. After Kabu's gym, it's time to head north to Stow-N-Side and the 4th gym leader, Alistair. Along the way, we catch two of what will be our most important encounters in the entire game, Antony the Durant, and in a little patch of glass in the Glenwood Tangle, we can catch a Sinistea, who we named Chibi. Right away with the cracked pot we picked up in Stow-N-Side, we can evolve Chibi into our second strongest base stat total Pokemon of the entire playthrough, Poltegeist. Another special attacker, but of the ghost variety. It's weird to me that Durant is only 1 foot tall, but other bug-type Pokemon of the same variety, like Nincada, Spinarak, and Lediba, who's an insane 3 feet tall. Like, what? I don't think that was properly shown in the anime. Anyways, Durant's only true weakness is Fire-type, so since we are past the Fire-type gym, and he's got Steel-type moves, Antony will be a great addition to the team. In Stow-N-Side's gym, we face Alistair in Pokemon Shield. He uses Ghost-type Pokemon, which can be a little scary, especially with a few fully evolved Pokemon. Luckily, to start this battle, our little Hermit Crab can weaken Alistair's Galarian Yamask to get Dewey the clean KO with a Bubble Beam after a switch-in. Then, in yet another massive mistake, we underestimate how much Cursula's ancient power will do to Limpet. Like, what? This highly defensive clam got taken out by a few rocks, but I did miss the fact that ancient power is a non-physical attack. What can I say? But alas, we have to pivot into our strongest Pokemon for this battle a little earlier than expected. Antony comes in with a couple of super powerful crunches to take down Alistair's Cursula and Mimikyu without taking too much damage. Then it's time to make some hard decisions. As I said before, these Dynamax battles will almost always come with a necessary sacrifice until we can find a solution. So, in what is until now my most regretful action of a playthrough, we send out our hero, our champion, Princess, in an attempt to eat 2 Dynamax moves before going down, so that we can swap into Chibi and stall the last move with Protect. Princess comes out, and a 65-foot, 7-inch tall Gigantamax Gengar ushers our little Pipsqueak into the Shadow Realm. Rest in peace, buddy. You were one of the Pipsqueakiest of them all. Sadly, Princess was only able to tank 1 hit from the Gengar before going down, so we bring in Chibi earlier than expected, Protect stall for 1 turn, then we can send out Dewey, our other tiny but less cute bug spider, who tanks a Max Darkness from Gengar? I can't believe Princess didn't need to sacrifice himself there. Truly makes the loss feel meaningless, but then, after a second attack onto Dewey takes him out, Antony can come in and crunch our way to victory. That's 3 Pipsqueaks down in this fight. I'm really not playing this very optimally. Luckily, we still have a plethora to choose from. After this battle and putting our fallen soldiers into the box, we go and retrieve Cutie, who had been in the daycare for so long that I forgot about her. She wouldn't have been too much help in the last battle, especially with Ghost being super effective to bug, but for the foreseeable future, she may be our strongest Pokemon purely based on moveset. Then, after making our way through the Glimwood Tangle, it's time for Opal and the Balonly Gym. Opal is a Fairy-type user who will eventually take Bead under her wing and fix his type weakness to me. Curse you, you old hag. But her trial is fairly easy with the boost she gives and Antony and Chibi's good damaging moves for this point in the game. Alas, things have to go wrong in all of my playthroughs, because of course they do. Gym 5 is where another piece of our long-term plan went a little awry. I haven't mentioned this yet because it wasn't a problem until now, but Antony has one glaring weakness. Durant has 2 main abilities that it can have, the first being Swarm, which ups the power of bug-type moves in a pinch, just like the starter's abilities, Torrent, similar to that. The other ability that Durant can have is Hustle. Hustle boosts the power of your physical attacking moves by 50%. It sounds great, until you learn that it also decreases the accuracy of these moves by 20%. So every normal attacking move that we use has an innate 20% chance to miss. You can see where this is going. If you don't have a zoom lens or item capable of boosting your Pokemon's accuracy, which can still never get it to 100%, just improve it, Hustle can be game-losing. So with that being the case, we come into the battle against Opal ready for anything, but prepared for the worst. Her wheezing can't really hurt Antony with any of its moves, so we are free to either set up or take it out slowly, but the further along this battle gets, the more dangerous it is for our strongest Pokemon. We come to the battle with Pebble, who sets up some Stealth Rocks for chip damage throughout, but also takes up the boost that Opal gives you during the battle. Then, after a successful few turns for Antony to take out Opal's wheezing with X-Scissors and Mawile with a single dig, Opal sends out her Togekiss. We respond swapping into Nugget, who actually gives up all of its health to let the Togekiss replenish her own. Tough one for our boy, but we needed a safe pivot.
Then, it's time for fate to decide Antony's destiny. We swap him back in, hoping for the stab and hustle boosted one-shot with Metal Claw.
Alright, Metal Claw here.
Come on, Antony. Come on.
No! No, I'm not allowing heals. No!
That's right. Antony, who carried us through Gym 4, goes down on his own accord, but the wings of fate flew in the flying type's favor. With that, we send out Chibi, who takes out the Togekiss with 2 hexes and a sucker punch. You would think we could have done this earlier, but the plan was to protect Stall, Opal's ace with Chibi, so we didn't think that there was another option. Anyways, now we are again in full steer mode, so up against Opal's G-Max Alcremie, we send out Cutie to tank 1 hit, then it's time for another devastating sacrifice. Pebble has been in our lives since the very beginning, carrying us through each of the first 4 gym battles, but our plan was never to win the game with her. She's a strong first stage bug, but we would need more from Cutie, Chibi, and Smurf if we were going to make it to the end. So it's time to send another valiant Minimon into their demise. Alcremie sends Pebble off with a blessing of her own in the form of a G-Max finale, and we are safe to come into Smurf, who tanks another G-Max finale and gets the Will-O-Wisp to burn off and take down Alcremie after a few burn-boosted hexes, netting us the 5th badge of our playthrough, and 3 more additions to the Eternal Box. After this, our team is dwindling, but it's time to go pick up our Pokemon Home added Flapple, who we would have used the GTS for, but I had stockpiled so we did not have to wait. Then, during a massive training montage, we find Ballo the Natu and Buddy the Badoo, who will be nice additions to lengthen out the roster. After a little struggle through a battle with Hop and his heavy-hitting Snorlax, we can head east to add Anti-Chew, the Morpeko, Chubby, the Togedemaru, and Willy the Snom, before spending an hour in Pokemon Camp getting Buddy's friendship to the level where he can evolve into a Roselia. After all that prep and a few days waiting for Flamethrower to appear in the wild area shops, it's time to tackle Melanie in the 6th gym of the Galar region. Melanie's team is easier to deal with than Opal's purely because of the Ice type being much weaker than Fairy to our team. We lead with Buddy, who is able to set up Toxic Spikes against Melanie's Frostmoth. Then, our plan is to swap into Elf, who will fake out once for some chip damage, then set up a light screen against these Ice types. Due to a lack of information, we are unaware of what ability Melanie's Frostmoth has, and Elf goes down to a super effective Bug Buzz after Shield Dust prevents the fake out flinch. And again, we are in full-on figure-this-out mode. The good news is most Ice-type Pokemon are slow, so Smurf can come in and one-shot Melanie's Frostmoth, Galarian Darmanitan, and Ice-Q with a charcoal-boosted Flamethrower, and a little help from Buddy's Toxic Spikes. Melanie sends out her Ace Lapras, who Gigantamaxes into the one instrument from Zelda, and while we bait out the Water-type G-Max move, we can bring in Buddy to tank 1 hit, then Willy, our baby Iceworm, who takes the remaining 2 G-Max moves like an absolute champion, goes down to the 78-foot-tall Plesiosaur for a clean swap into Chubby, who can Iron Head us to victory and seal the 6th gym badge. After the 6th badge, we get the chance to add a couple heavy hitters to our lineup, including Anchovy the Wishy-Washy, our 600 base stat total monster when in her schooling form. By the way, her schooling form is part of an ability and not her Pokedex entry. When I look at our little Anchovy on the Pokedex, the last is only 8 inches tall, and that's the definition of a Pipsqueak. Then we can add Baby Barf, the Pyukumuku, to the team, followed by Kylie, the Pincurchin, which is a great name for a Pokemon based on both a pincushion and a sea urchin. Truly innovative stuff from Nintendo. After some more stomps of Hop and Marnie, it's time for the 7th gym and Piers' Dark-type Pokemon. On another note, I'm not sure where the footage of me finding Honey the Combi is, but we also added him to the roster, and he will likely be our cannon fodder for this gym if it comes down to it. If you were doing a normal playthrough of Pokemon Shield, you would think that Cutie was specifically designed for this Piers gym battle. The Bug and Fairy types both being super effective to his Dark types, along with the fact that Spikemuth does not have an area where Piers can Dynamax his Pokemon, mean that Cutie can one-shot basically every Pokemon that Piers has, the only concern being his Skuntank. We decide to play it safe, and after a clean OHKO of Scrafty, Cutie U-turns into Piers' Malamar. We bring in Honey, who may have a chance to take out the Malamar and bait out the Skuntank for a cleaner swap, but alas, Honey falls to a Psycho Cut, so we repeat, bringing out Cutie for a U-turn into Wishy-Washy, who we taught the very powerful Earthquake to deal with Skuntank, but Piers delays the inevitable, bringing out his ace Obstagoon instead of Skuntank. So a quick swap back into Cutie, who takes the Obstagoon down to 25% HP with a Pollen Puff, then he U-turns for yet another clean swap into the Pokemon that we want in. Wishy-Washy comes in, tanks a Sucker Punch before one-shotting Piers' Skuntank, and netting us the 7th gym badge. Hopefully these battles continue to get easier? Up next, it's time to take on the 8th gym leader, Raihan, whose specialty is both double battles and Pokemon who can set up weather. If only the website that I was using to look at these battles specified the double battles part. We come into Raihan's challenge set up to battle him, but forget that there are 3 mandatory battles to take on before we actually get to battle him. Our sacrifice for the gym leader was intended to be Ballo the Natu, but we end up needing to use him to tank the first round of attacks of one of Raihan's evil apprentices, But other than that, we make it through relatively unscathed for the final battle for the 8th gym badge of the Galar region. Raihan leads with a Flygon and a Gigalith combo that go down to the OP Anchovy Cutie combo of Dazzling Gleams, Waterfall, and Ice Beam, before Raihan brings out Sandaconda and his ace Duraludon. We immediately have to take out Cutie because of her weakness to Duraludon's G-Max attacks, and send in Baby Barf, who we hope can tank some attacks and stall out the crazy 141-foot-tall skyscraper's damage. That's right, according to the internet, G-Max Duraludon is 141 times bigger than our biggest lad, and at this point I'm just shocked he can see anything from all the way up there. Baby Barf goes down after an unlucky critical hit and paralysis lead to her being absolutely useless for this battle, and then we send in Buddy for the Leech Seed Prayer. But Buddy is just too slow, and even through a defense-boosted Eviolite, Buddy goes down to a combination G-Max Depletion and Fire Fang. After Anchovy takes out Raihan's Sandaconda, he's down to one Pokemon versus our 3 left, so we use Cutie to bait out a G-Max Steel Spike before a swap into Anti-Chew, who tanks it like a champ. With Anti-Chew battling a now normal-sized Duraludon, she's free to take the KO with a Brick Break, netting us the 8th badge and a chance at redemption for all of the losses of our comrades. That's 8 gym battles down and not much story to go, so before we take on the Semifinals Cup and Champions Cup, that's right, if you didn't remember, there's no Elite Four in this game. We have to go add the final Pipsqueaks to the roster. First up was Goopy the Ditto, followed by Zappy the Rotom, and off-stream we also added Snips the Togepi, Little Goopster the Goomy, and Puffball the Cottony. And with that, our roster is set, and it's time to head north to Winden and take on the remainder of this challenge. Before we can make it there, on our way through Route 10, we encounter a double battle that we thought was avoidable. It wasn't. These two have some pretty strong Pokemon in a Klinklang, Heliolisk, Noivern, and a Togedemaru of their own. Somehow I missed the Screech defense drop on our little Anti-Chew the Morpeko, and a Gear Grind plus Dragon Pulse combo take her out before we can make it to the next gym. A brutal mistake that cost us our Brick Breaker, Fighting type user, along with some amazing Stab, Dark, and Electric type moves. Hopefully this doesn't come back to bite us. With that, it's time to break out the big guns for the remainder of the playthrough. The Rotom Catalog. In Sword and Shield, you can fight a trainer in Winden who will give you the Rotom Catalog that gives you access to all the different Rotom forms whenever you want between battles. This is massive for us because it allows us to automatically give Rotom Stab, extremely high special attacking moves whenever we need. So, in our setup for the first battle of the semifinals, we come up against Marnie, whose Dark types continue to struggle against the might of Cutie, her lone Toxicroak causing us concern. But a swap into Anchovy gives us the ability to Earthquake for the KO, then bring in Cutie for Marnie's Morpeko and Scrafty. Marnie's ace has shifted into the extremely powerful and hairy Grimmsnarl, but we have a special plan in mind for this one. Goopy the Ditto. Grimmsnarl's typing makes it only weak to Poison, Steel, and Fairy type moves. Our goal is to swap to Grimmsnarl, and because we are a higher level and should have some badge boosts, we should be able to outspeed and do a little damage before a G-Max Starfall takes us out. But that is to no avail. Goopy doesn't even get the chance to transform as Marnie's Grimmsnarl takes them out in one hit. We bring in Chubby as our safe backup who hits Grimmsnarl for a massive Iron Head before really testing the limits of what our Electric Hedgehog can do. He narrowly misses getting KO'd by Grimmsnarl's G-Max Snooze and becomes drowsy, but that is just not enough, and Chubby takes the KO with one more Iron Head. Let's go. Togedemaru is everyone's favorite Nuzlocke Pokemon for a reason, right? We made it out of that battle with only Goopy gone, which is a hit, but not unexpected. So it's time to quickly regroup. We still have to win this Champions Cup. For Hop, we've seen his team before, and we know how to beat him. It's more a question of execution. We bring in Wee Man the Caterpie from Route 1 to give her a chance to taste glory in the semifinals, should she make it through this battle. Then turn Zappy into an air fryer before heading into this battle with high hopes for this team. We lead Zappy, whose substitute prevents any further damage from Hop's Dubwool before an overheat takes it out. Then Hop brings in his real ace, Snorlax. Snorlax is tough and a heavy hitter, but our substitute remains unbroken, so we can get off a discharge before substituting again, and 2 more subsequent discharges take out Hop's strongest Pokemon. From here, Pincurchin comes in, and due to Chubby's Lightning Rod ability and Steel typing, Pincurchin can do nothing, as we set up Chubby for the slow and steady KO with Pin Missiles. A final Fell Stinger, which massively boosts Chubby's attack for Hop's next Pokemon, Corviknight, is massive. After the boost, Corviknight goes down easily to a Zing Zap, then it's time for the big guns. Hop's G-Max Rillaboom comes out, and we swap to Wee Man, who tanks one hit with the Focus Sash before going down on a second G-Max move. Way to go, Wee Man, you executed your job perfectly. With that, we send in Chubby, who baits a G-Max Quake that, by swapping into Zappy, we take no damage from due to Levitate. This tactic may or may not come in handy for the next few battles. And after Rillaboom returns to normal size, Zappy can get the clean KO with an overheat. And with that, we are officially champions of the Semifinals Cup. What does this mean? It means we have another 6 battles to go before we have successfully beat Pokemon Shield. First up, we have to chase this delusional man around the Winden Square and knock out his Steel types before ascending Rose Tower as the rich and super powerful chairman tries to solve the energy crisis by bringing about what has been called throughout the game as the Darkest Day. Yeah, that makes sense. Anyways, before anything happens, we come up against Rose's assistant, Oleana. All of the goons that come out use Steel-type Pokemon, so we run Anchovy's Earthquake into oblivion as we take out Hop's Double approximately 83 times on the way up the tower. But when we finally make it up top, it's time to cook. Oleana leads with a Frostlass that gets a Will-O-Wisp off on Anchovy before getting taken out by a couple of Earthquakes. She swaps to Serena, who uses a crazy Acrobatics after we swap to Cutie.
Oh my god, Acrobatics. Why did it use that?
Who barely lives. Oh my god, that would have been devastating. We swap out of Cutie after a quick U-turn into Chubby, who takes Serena out with a Pin Missile. Oleana's next Pokemon is a Salazzle, who, even through a burn, we know that Anchovy can take out with a quad-effective Earthquake. Who would have thought? Wishy-washy putting in the work late in this run. Next up is a Milotic who does not have Ice Beam, so we have a super safe switch into Pee-wee, who hasn't seen much action because of the large amount of super effective moves against him, but he walls Milotic, and we can take Oleana's penultimate Pokemon out with a couple Grab Apples. Last up is Oleana's world's largest pile of garbage. We stay in with Pee-wee, attempting to bait any move besides G-Max Quake so that Chubby can come in to tank one hit. Then, baiting the G-Max Quake, we swap to Zappy. Then again, we swap to Chubby, and back to Zappy. We've officially developed a strategy approximately 96% of the way through the game. Zappy can come in, and after only a couple of chip damage hits from a Sandstorm, they can substitute and take out the Garbodor with a Stab Overheat. Easy peasy. After this, we head back to the stadium to begin the Champions Challenge, but Bede remembers that he loves the spotlight, and after some training from Opal, has become a Psychic and Fairy-type trainer. He leads Mawile, who gets taken out with an Earthquake from Anchovy. Then, when Gardevoir comes out, we can swap to Chubby, who uses Stab super effective Iron Head to deal with not only Gardevoir, but also Bede's Rapidash. Bede's last Pokemon is G-Max Hatterene, who we can swap into with the baited Max Flare onto Chubby, and the not very effective hit lets us set up a couple of substitutes before we can swap into Snips the Togepi, who completes his one and only mission: get Chubby back out there with minimal damage taken. Once Chubby's back out there, a quick and easy Iron Head makes this battle relatively painless, as our Permabox Pokemon list grows to 23. Up first in the real Champions Cup is everyone's favorite trainer Nessa, whose Water-type team we are much more prepared for thanks to Pee-wee, Zappy, Kylie, and Chubby. Nessa's lead Golisopod would be absolutely terrifying for anyone but our speedy fan, who takes Nessa's Golisopod out with a Stab Discharge before it can run away. Next up is her Barraskewda that's super fast and able to get a single Ice Fang off before falling to a Discharge. Nessa's Seaking and Pelipper also fall to Discharges, and then it's time to come up against our greatest fear: Nessa's now Gigantamax Dreadnought. Flashbacks of the third gym begin to pop into our head, and we get concerned about what may happen to this team if this absolute unit is allowed to wreak havoc. Zappy is able to get off 2 substitutes before being left too low to stay out anymore, so, after wasting 2 turns of Nessa's Lion Turtle, we swap into Weelad, the Pumpkaboo, who's been sitting in the box since Route 4. Weelad takes one whole continent getting dropped on her head and goes down, but this frees up Pee-wee to come in for the quad-effective Grab Apple and seal the win against the first Champions Cup trainer. The second gym leader to return is Alistair, who now has a full team of very strong ghost types. Lucky for us, we have one uber-strong Teapot who's been raring to shine on the brightest stage. We lead with Chibi, who is able to Shadow Ball their way into complete domination of Alistair's first 4 Pokemon, one after the other, only suffering a Will-O-Wisp against his Chandelure. Next up is Alistair's Gengar. We make a quick sacrifice of Weenie, our first ever encounter from what felt like ages ago, and as our little squirrel goes down, we feel empowered, because next up is Zappy, whose signature substitute stalling strategy works once more. After stalling the remainder of the G-Max moves, we have a relatively safe swap into everyone's favorite teammate, Anchovy, who takes the KO with a super effective Earthquake. And that is the second battle of the Champions Cup down. Last up in the Champions Cup tournament is one of our other more ill-fated gym leader encounters from before, Raihan. Luckily, Raihan's team is now only a weather-based single battle. Raihan's lead Torkoal sets up the sun, so we lead Anchovy with a super effective Earthquake that does about 80% of Torkoal's health. Again, luckily, Torkoal is slower, so we are able to get the clean knockout on the next attack. Next up is Goodra, who you would think with all the slime and everything would not like the sun at all, but here she is. So we send in Pee-wee after assuming that Goodra would opt to set up Rain Dance, and with that, we are free to lock ourselves into Outrage and take out both Goodra and Raihan's extremely scary Turtonator. Let's go, Pee-wee! Pee-wee putting in the work! With Flygon coming out, we take an extremely calculated risk that I have to explain before I get roasted in the comments. In Gen 8 and on, Confusion only has a 33% chance of hitting yourself. Looking at our team, no one could safely come into this Flygon without taking massive damage, and if we connect on an Outrage, we've effectively won the battle. So, we take the risk.
Cheers. We got to. Oh no, Pee-wee.
And Pee-wee lets us down. She hits herself in confusion, which means we cannot risk staying in on the Flygon. So, on a relatively safe switch into Cutie, whose fairy typing negates damage from Flygon's Dragon Claw, but cannot reliably take out the Flygon in one hit, she gets hit with an Earthquake before taking out Raihan's penultimate Pokemon. Still cooking here, I think, right? Last up is Raihan's G-Max Duraludon, for who we swap into our other Route 4 Pokemon, Pip, the Pidove, to get another clean swap into Zappy afterwards. Pip, great job, buddy. You're doing amazing things out there. Once out, Zappy takes some extra chip damage from Sandstorm, while Duraludon gets a couple of very scary Max Knuckles off, which increase its attack. We know that Zappy will be unable to take Raihan's Ace out in one hit, so we make another decision to swap into Chubby, who tanks a Stone Edge but will be unable to stay in due to the Duraludon's extra coverage move, Body Press. A swap into Anchovy on the Body Press means that we have to put all of our faith in our little Sardine to get a massive Earthquake off and send our team to victory intact. Duraludon uses a Stab Dragon Claw, and is able to take out Anchovy. And we are now in a blender. My steering shields have never been put up against this type of test, but we push forward. It's what Anchovy would have wanted. We bring out Zappy, hoping that their substitute can take one hit from a Stone Edge or get the uber massive miss. But Stone Edge connects. Zappy's substitute fades, and we risk the swap into Chubby on a random move due to the AI seeing a kill with any move on Zappy. Unfortunately, the AI chooses the one move that will take Chubby out in one hit, so with a critical hit Body Press, we have lost two of our most powerful Pokemon to this stupid Skyscraper. The epitome of everything this run goes up against. Next up is Cutie, who is fast enough to get off a Dazzling Gleam before going down to a super effective Iron Head, and we are left with Pee-wee and Zappy. Pee-wee comes in because I think that he outspeeds and can kill with outrange, but that one costs us again. And it's all up to our last Pokemon, Zappy, who takes the kill with the Dark Pulse as we limp out of the Champions Cup with a lone refrigerator and a dream. Before our fight with Leon, we get interrupted by Chairman Rose doing evil and unspeakable things because, of course he does. So we have to go back to our house and awaken Zacian and Zamazenta. Then head back to Hammerlock to stop this dude from ruining Christmas or whatever's going on. When we get to his evil Christmas-stopping headquarters, Rose challenges us to a battle with a team of Steel-type Pokemon. Man, Anchovy would have loved this. But with Zappy converted back into an air fryer, they can take the first two KOs cleanly with a couple of overheats. Then, on a swap to Kylie for an attempt at a Curse Recover reversal stall, Kylie goes down with limited fight in her. This does allow Zappy, whose special attack drops have disappeared, to come back out and overheat the Berserker and Kling Klang before Rose sends out his final Pokemon, Kaparaha. Kaparaja? Kaparaha? Same thing. We've got some interesting strategies to attempt to take this thing out, and the one we decide to go with is a Focus-Sashed Endeavor with Quick Attack. Cheese, I know, but look at what we're working with here. Surprisingly, Puffball's Endeavor doesn't actually bring Kaparaja's health down to 1 HP. Stupid Nintendo thinking of all my solutions for this. But it has lowered its health enough to where Zappy can come back in and take the final KO with their last overheat. Man, I love Rotom. Never thought I'd say that before. Next up is Eternatus, who Zappy really doesn't have any safe forms to choose from, so from here we are forced to do some substitute chip damage before sending out Smurf to attempt a Will-O-Wisp. Sadly, Smurf goes down to a Dynamax Cannon, and his everlasting flame has finally been extinguished. Next to last up is our starter Runt, who takes a flamethrower but is unable to get any more significant damage off before getting cross-pointed off the planet. It was weird to bring Runt back after all this time. I really wanted him to be part of the championship run, but a man's got to do what a man's got to do. Crazily enough, up next is Chibi, and our little teapot, short and stout, coming in, and boy, does he prove that stoutness. Chibi takes not one, but two attacks from Eternatus before actually getting the KO with 3 Shadow Balls. Siri, play Where Have You Been by Rihanna. That was completely improvised, by the way. Anyways, our luck isn't over yet. After taking out Eternatus' normal form, he absorbs all of that Christmas energy that Rose unleashed and becomes Super Long Arm and Hand Pokemon. This thing is an absolute beast compared to our team. It is 328 feet long. Our entire roster Pokemon for this playthrough is about 1/10 the size of this thing. An absolute unit, to say the least. And in a crazy turn of events, this absolute unit does absolutely nothing to Zappy. This battle acts like a raid battle, where we have Hop's Pokemon, Zacian, Zamazenta, and Zappy. Eternatus just spams move on everyone else, and we are free to safely sit behind our substitute, while 9,000 HP of chip damage finally wears the hand out. Don't fact check that number. We are forced to catch Eternatus, but we shove him in the furthest depths of hell, away from our Pipsqueaks, never to be seen again. This thing is a monster. With that, it's time. We've completed all the story, battled all the trainers, saved Christmas, and this is what we are left with. Zappy, Chibi, and Little Goopster. Our little Pipsqueaks have carried us one by one to this final battle against Leon, and we may have a chance. The setup for this battle with Zappy, Chibi, and Little Goopster is a simple sweep strategy. Rotom substitutes, and our goal is to nasty plot our way to +6 special attack on King Shield's turns against Leon's Aegis Slash before attempting to sweep all of the battle with Shadow Ball. Will it be tough? Yes. Will we need an astronomical amount of luck to pull it off? Yes. Is it realistic? Maybe. We'll see how it goes. Going into the battle, we have nothing but optimism from our team and the stream. We've made it this far and still have a chance after all of my misplays. It's time to take on Leon.
Substitute. Perfect. Perfect. Do it again. You got nothing on me, fool. Plus the leftovers. Yes. Now we nasty plot. Should raise our special attack by 2 stages. He goes into attack mode. That's fine. He's going to use Shadow Ball, I believe. Just don't take it out. That's all I ask. Okay, the substitute faded. That is A-okay. We will substitute again. It's going to use King Shield. Perfect. Perfect. Come on, Zappy. Come on. We nasty plot. Come on. I'm bouncing all over the place, guys. I'm bouncing all over the place. It's going to use Shadow Ball again. That's fine. We need to do one more of these, basically. A crit. That's fine. Substitute fades. That is A-okay. It's going to King Shield. Substitute. Don't take it out. Please don't take it out. Okay, the substitute fades. That is a little unfortunate here. We kind of want to hope that he makes the mistake of using King Shield here. So I'm going to substitute again. That's really unfortunate. Okay. I guess we just Shadow Ball here and hope for the best. It used King Shield twice. I guess it's just out of those. Come on, Zappy. I need you to heal so much. Haxorus. Okay, Haxorus is big. Haxorus has Poison Jab, Iron Tail, Outrage, and Earthquake. If it uses Outrage, we might get taken out. I think we can substitute here, just to see what happens. No.
The battle begins, and things go relatively according to plan. The problem is, our plan was flawed. We knew it was flawed, but it was flawed nonetheless. Since we're weak to Ghost-type moves, and the Pokemon Shield AI knows it, Leon's Aegis Slash one-shots our substitute. So there's a very slim chance that it decides to use an extra King's Shield. Additionally, our sweep relies on Zappy being faster than the opposing Pokemon with insane speed. In this case, we do not get that luck. Rotom uses all of their substitutes to get to as much special attack as possible before taking out Leon's Aegis Slash, but his Dragon Bolt has too much speed and the ability to one-shot our 2 Ghost types and Little Goopster. And that's it. We lose to the champion of the region in the final battle for supremacy, with nothing but love for these Pipsqueaks in our heart and a newfound appreciation for the little guys of Pokemon. This playthrough was definitely the hardest one I've attempted to complete so far, even with all the built-in protection and sacrificial mons, but I know for a fact that if I had played some fights differently and taken the earlier game a little bit more seriously, there was a real chance to beat Leon and take over the entire Galar region with 6 Pokemon that, stacked up, would be shorter than me. These Pipsqueaks gave it their all, and it was my fault that things went as poorly as they did. One day, I may try to replay this playthrough, but for now, making it this far and knowing that this is a group of minuscule maniacs that can do it is good enough for me. For now. The people who hopped in the stream to chime in and tag along for this journey made it what it was, and I'd love it if you guys joined me on the next one. With many more ideas coming down the pipe, I'm excited for the next playthrough and opportunity to reprove myself. I'm new to Pokemon Challenges and YouTube, if you couldn't tell by my sub 200 subscribers at the time of making this video, but this is something that I've been truly enjoying, and I want to thank you guys for the support and giving me the desire to keep trying new ideas and challenges. Obviously, I'd love for you to like and subscribe and let me know if there's anything else you want me to try or improve on when it comes to my videos. Obviously, the gameplay needs some work too, but that'll come with time. Come join the Tycoons on Twitch, TikTok, and Instagram at the links below, or just look up Tycart50. You'll find it. And last, but certainly not least, deuces.
Hey guys, I just want to give you another quick shout out. It's currently 5 a.m. in the morning on March 1st as I'm recording and finishing this video editing, so it's going to be out in a few hours, but I hope you're enjoying the video, and I'm glad you made it to the end. I want to point out that the reason that I sound a little nasally, the reason that I sound a little hoarse is because of this little lad. We got a cat. He's the greatest. He's super sweet. Always a great mascot for the stream and all that, but it has made editing and recording my voice a little bit more difficult. So if you noticed that, that's why. If you noticed a little less emotion, the breathing's been a little troubling right now. But anyways, I just wanted to say that. I love giving an outro to these videos, so I hope you enjoyed. I hope you have a great day. I need to go to bed because it's too late. But this is going to be exported and out in a few hours.
So the only thing I want to say is I'll see you on stream. We've got another video coming out in a month. We're going to be recording that here pretty quick. So get excited, hop on streams, do all that stuff. We'd love to see you there. Have a great one. Deuces.